Sakta, a young and ambitious monk, lives in a bustling monastery and prides himself on his strict adherence to spiritual practices and his ability to meditate for long hours alone. He believes that true enlightenment can only be achieved through solitary effort. Sakta's life in the monastery is marked by a sense of competition. He constantly compares his progress to that of other monks, especially his friend Chinggis. Sakta excels in scriptural debates but struggles to connect emotionally with his fellow monks. His teacher, Elder Manas, notices Sakta's isolation with concern. News spreads that the Buddha is coming to visit the monastery. Sakta is excited to show off his knowledge and meditation skills. However, when the Buddha arrives, he doesn't come alone. He's accompanied by a group of lay followers who seem to share a deep bond with him. This unexpected sight confuses Sakta. During the Buddha's talk, he emphasizes the importance of spiritual friendship. Troubled by this teaching, Sakta publicly questions the Buddha, arguing that true spiritual progress must be a solitary endeavor. The Buddha responds by inviting Sakta to join him on his travels, presenting a challenge to Sakta's worldview. Sakta is torn between his desire to learn from the Buddha and his fear of leaving the structured monastery life. He seeks advice from Elder Manas, who encourages him to go. Sakta spends a sleepless night, wrestling with his decision, fearing that leaving might mean giving up on his spiritual goals. Despite his reservations, Sakta decides to join the Buddha's traveling group. He bids emotional goodbyes to the monastery, especially a tense farewell with Chinggis. As Sakta leaves with the Buddha and his followers, he feels a mix of excitement and apprehension about the journey ahead. On the road, Sakta observes the Buddha's interactions with his disciples. He's surprised by the warmth and camaraderie within the group. The Buddha notices Sakta's discomfort and engages him in a discussion about the nature of spiritual friendship, challenging Sakta's preconceptions. The group arrives at a village where they meet Puna, a simple cowherd with profound wisdom. Sakta is shocked to see the Buddha treat Puna as an equal, learning from him. This experience begins to shift Sakta's understanding of spiritual hierarchy and the nature of wisdom. The travelers reach a large city where Sakta is dazzled by the wealth and complexity of urban life. He's tempted by the intellectual discourses in the city's learning centers, considering staying behind. However, a conversation with a disillusioned scholar makes him realize the limitations of mere intellectual knowledge. As they leave the city, the group encounters a dangerous river crossing. Sakta watches in awe as the Buddha and his disciples work together to help travelers cross safely. Participating in this act of service, Sakta begins to understand the practical application of spiritual teachings. The group meets Chinggis, who has left the monastery to start his own spiritual movement. Sakta is conflicted, torn between his old competitive feelings and his growing understanding of compassion. The Buddha uses this encounter to teach about dealing with difficult relationships. A series of misunderstandings leads to conflict within the Buddha's group. Sakta finds himself mediating between disciples, learning the challenges and rewards of building trust and resolving conflicts. His efforts help restore harmony, earning him new respect within the group. The group retreats to a remote mountain monastery for intense practice. Sakta struggles with the isolation, realizing how much he has come to value companionship. The Buddha guides him in balancing solitary practice with group support. During a long meditation, Sakta has a profound insight into the interconnectedness of all beings. He begins to see how his previous pursuit of solitary enlightenment was itself a form of attachment. This realization deeply shakes his sense of self. The group attends a grand religious council where various spiritual teachers debate their doctrines. Sakta is chosen to represent the Buddha's teachings. Despite his knowledge, he initially falters, but finds strength in the supportive presence of his spiritual friends. Following the debate, Sakta falls into a deep spiritual crisis, questioning everything he has learned. He isolates himself, refusing help from others. The Buddha allows him this struggle, watching over him from a distance as Sakta confronts his deepest fears and attachments. Emerging from his crisis, Sakta gains a new level of understanding. He sees how his spiritual journey has been supported all along by the friendship and guidance of others, especially the Buddha. He experiences a profound sense of gratitude and interconnectedness. Transformed by his realizations, Sakta dedicates himself to serving the community. He organizes the group to help a village suffering from a drought, finding deep fulfillment in collective action. His changed demeanor and increased effectiveness are noted by all. The Buddha announces it's time to return to the original monastery. Sakta feels both excitement and apprehension about facing his old life with his new understanding. The journey back is filled with opportunities for Sakta to practice his new insights. Upon returning to the monastery, Sakta confronts the remnants of his old competitive and isolationist tendencies. He works to integrate his new understanding into his old environment, facing resistance from some monks who are suspicious of his transformation. A conflict erupts between two factions in the monastery, threatening to tear the community apart. Sakta is called upon to mediate. Using all he has learned about spiritual friendship, he navigates the complex situation, bringing about a resolution that deepens everyone's understanding. News of the positive changes in the monastery spreads, attracting visitors from far and wide. Sakta, now respected as a wise teacher, shares his journey and insights. He emphasizes the central role of spiritual friendship in the path to enlightenment, echoing the Buddha's original teaching.